first of many One East podcasts. I'm David Ewings, brother David Ewings from the state of Delaware, current Delaware State Director. I am joined with the one and only current Vice Regional Director, brother Nigel Coelho. Brother Nigel Coelho, how's it going?
All is well, good brother. How are you today?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. So just to explain to the brothers what One East podcast is all about, it's an opportunity for the now current Vice Regional Director, presumptive 28th Eastern Regional Director, to have a few words with the brothers of the East to share on some hot topics, clarify some things that need to be clarified, and just to communicate in a more robust way with the Brotherhood. And so, Brother Nigel Coelho, just before we get started with some Q&A, for the brothers, the rare brothers out there in the East who don't know who you are, if you want to take a moment and share a little bit about your background. If you want to, start from the beginning. Talk about your journey to Sigma, your journey in Sigma, and how we got to today.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, my brother. So yeah, my journey to Sigma was it was. I think back to those years now. It was amazing. I was a student enrolled at Seton Hall University, a private Catholic university here in New Jersey. And when I first came to Seton Hall, we did not have a chapter. Sigma didn't have a chapter there. In fact, the Kappas and the Qs essentially, if you want to call it, for lack of a better term, ran the yard, or they were there on campus. But when I came to Seton Hall, I remember very vividly there was one brother that was on campus, a brother by the name of Curtis Vandross, who had crossed in the spring of '91. He was the only, as I said, he was the only brother there. But I'd really started to get connected to members of Sigma just being around and about in the Essex County area. I had a chance. I remember I met several brothers at college parties and things of that nature, and just always thought that the Sigmas, there was something different about those Sigmas, and that was what really attracted me to the organization, to the fraternity. Had an opportunity to join the Wondrous Band in the spring of 1994. We didn't have a chapter at Seton Hall at the time, so Kurt, who was my ADP, he was from Zator chapter, which was at the chapter at Jersey City State. It's now NJCU, but it was Jersey City State College back then. So I joined through the Zator chapter, and then 2 years later we chartered the Alpha Nu Alpha chapter at Seton Hall through the charter line there. Myself, Kurt, and then brothers Romaine Lewis, Eric Thomas, and Caesar Espejo. We were the charter members of that great chapter there at Seton Hall. So after graduating, I joined my alumni chapter, which was the Chi Sigma chapter. But Chi Sigma was more than just an alumni chapter for me. I was the guy, and a lot of the undergrad bros will laugh at this. I was the guy that always got picked to go to the grad chapter meetings, as a collegiate. So in fact, that's where myself and brother Janabu Williams continued to be connected. We knew each other from high school, but I got picked to go to the Chi Sigma meetings, and Janabu was always the guy that the Kappa Epsilon chapter sent to the Chi Sigma meetings. So we would sit in the back, as young brothers, and kind of listen to these guys debate and go back and forth. And we were like, man, these grad brothers, man, they out their minds. So it's funny to think about it now and to fast forward ahead all these years later, and we go from being the young brothers in the back of the room thinking the old heads are a little crazy to now we're the crazy old heads in the front of the room. But yeah, so Chi Sigma was a chapter that really mentored me even as a collegiate. In 1997, Dave Samuel, who a lot of brothers probably will be following this. Remember Doc Samuel very, very favorably. He was a multi-time Eastern Regional officer. He was a past president of our alumni chapter. He was initiated into Sigma at the Alpha chapter in the spring of 1978. He was like Doc Samuel was like a mentor to me and so many others. Same goes for Larry Mungin, who was the state director, area deputy director at the time when when we were collegiates. Larry was like a big brother to myself and my line brothers. He was a big brother to a lot of collegiate brothers in the state back in the '90s. Man, Larry was just a true brother's brother, and he was always very patient. Larry and I really got connected too because Larry, of course, as a lot of brothers will remember very fondly, he was an accountant by trade. Very, very qualified CPA, and I was an accounting major at the time in school. So he and I, just we clicked like that. Yeah, we just bonded. So those brothers were more than, and so many more. I mean, Doc Kevin West, Cedric Ashley, Dan Fox, Kenny Freeman. These are all brothers in Chi Sigma that I really built just unbelievable relationships with. So when I graduated, it was a no-brainer that I was going to transfer and join Chi Sigma. And in 1997, as I was saying, so Doc Samuel encouraged me to run for the associate regional director in the Eastern region. I had no idea what the heck that even was, I didn't think that I could, serve at those levels. Like I was focused on my chapter, but Doc convinced me and said, listen, you have those qualities. I think that would make you a great, not just collegiate leader, but a leader in the fraternity. So I remember I drove to Richmond with Doc and his family, his wife Cindy and his son Dave, who's now a member of Sigma, and their daughter Megan. I piled in the back of the car with Dave and Megan, and we drove to Richmond, Virginia. And at that conference, I was elected as the associate regional director. So I served on that board for 2 years in that role. And then when I graduated, I moved from associate regional director to regional secretary, which was really unusual at that time, for it to have a collegiate stay on the board even when he graduated. But I was fortunate enough to do that and serve another 3 years in that role. So I was on the board for 5 years, from 1997 to 2002, which was, think back at that now, it was crazy. But my life changed then because I got married, graduated, started working. My wife Shaniqua and I, who was obviously is a Zeta, remember Zeta Phi Beta is my soror. We just got married. We had our first child, Justin, who's now Sigma. But Brooke, we were just getting ready to have our second child, our daughter Brooke. I had to step away from a lot of the regional stuff because I just didn't have the time, and the bros were the ones who really pushed me on that. Like they were like, bro, you gotta take it easy, man. Like you doing the most, you're doing too much. And I always remembered that and respected them for that because they didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. They told me what I needed to hear, So I left a lot of the regional stuff alone, stayed on the local level, focused on my family, and it was about 10 years. There was a great period because, I didn't miss a football practice. I didn't miss a baseball game. Brooke had something going on. Brooke took dance from the time she was like 3 years old. I was there. Like I was, I was daddy dance captain as much, Shaniqua and I were a partnership, and it was great because I really got to spend, I think, that great quality time and not miss those opportunities to be there with the kids and with my wife. So it was the best decision I could have ever made, And then when they got older, Shaniqua knew, she knew where my passion was, right? And she knew that, leading in Sigma was a passion for me and how much the fraternity had meant to me. So when the kids got a little older, we made the collective decision that it was time to come back to some of these different roles, and it was something that I was thankful to do because again, Sigma had done so much for me. I felt like it's something I was indebted to. I had to do it, So I came back and actually ran for regional office the first time in 2014 and wasn't successful. But again, a lot of brothers in the region needed time, I think, to just get reacclimated to me because it had been a number of years since I'd served on that level. So I remember at the time the regional director was Honorable Brother Leonard Lockhart, asked me if I would take an appointment as state director because the state director at the time was moving up to be on the regional board. So I took the state director's opportunity. It was actually something I had done previously, and it just gave me a chance to work with the brothers in New Jersey, and again, Jersey raised me, so that was kind of like a no-brainer. I was happy to say in my time, 2 years serving as state director, we chartered one alumni chapter, Rho Delta Sigma. We reactivated another alumni chapter, Iota Chi Sigma, and both of those chapters are still, performing very, very well in their communities today. In 2016, came back to the board. I was elected director of Bigger and Better Business. Shouts to my BBB team. Always got a lot of love. That's where Brother Terrence Gibson and I, who's our international director of Bigger and Better Business now, he was the Southern Region director of Bigger and Better Business when I was the Eastern Region director of Bigger and Better Business. And loved working with Babyhead, man. That's my guy right there. So, I called him Babyhead. He gonna laugh when he sees
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm trying. I'm trying to
So
hold it together right now.
yeah, bro, but that's my dude right there, and again, just the entire journey. So 4 years as director of Bigger and Better Business, 4 years as vice director in this second go round, and now preparing to be prayerfully here in 60 or so days, the 28th Eastern Regional Director of this great region of ours.
Now, you kind of touched on relationships that you've built and maintained over the years. Talk about that a little more. I know you talked about Brother Janabu, you talked about our late Brother Munjan, you talked about Doc,
Yeah.
but talk about the relationships you've built, and even including our current regional director, Brother Jared Reeves, number 27. Talk about the brotherhood that's followed throughout the course of your Sigma career.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's a great question. So, the mantra for the new administration, as you know, well know, is going to be brotherhood over everything, right? And part of the defining factors of that is relationships. You talk about our current Eastern Regional Director, 27, number 27, Brother Reeves. JR and I got connected, and he's told this story a few times recently. As I think he started to get very reflective. You were at the board meeting a few days ago. Where he actually shed a tear. We were giving him the business about that afterwards. But Jr. and I remember we first got connected. He was the conference chair for the 2000 regional conference in Columbia, Maryland. His chapter was hosting, but Jr. He was just busting his butt. He was trying to do everything. A lot of time, a lot of brothers do it, right? And you don't delegate. You try to do everything yourself. In fact, I remember him telling the story one time that his wife Janine, who was actually at the time I think they were still dating, like Janine was in his house like helping him fold and get packets together and doing all this work. Like it was crazy. And I remember Jr. and I got connected because I saw how much he was working and stressing and struggling. And at the time, I was the Eastern Regional Secretary, so I had responsibilities to perform at the conference. But I saw this brother struggling, and I didn't know him well, but I knew he needed help, right? And so I just offered support and help where I could. If it meant getting to a session earlier to help him set up, helping to move materials around the hotel, getting things in order to make the conference more seamless. That to me is brotherhood, right? If you see a brother in need and struggling, don't stand off at a distance and just go, oh man, that brother looked like he got some problems. You got to help, and that's where Jr. and I developed, that relationship. And relationships mean everything to me. The relationships that I've garnered through my years in this fraternity, prayerfully the brothers I've helped to kind of inspire. I've mentioned Janabu and I. Janabu, like when I literally say that dude is like my best friend, like I really mean that. Like because I know he rides for my family as hard as he rides for me, and likewise. Brother George Darby, who everybody I think a lot of brothers know is past state director here in Jersey, member of Chi Sigma chapter, but before that was a member of our Sigma Beta Club. I've known George since he was 13 in the Sigma Beta Club, and when George tells you his story, I mean his story of how he went from struggling on the streets in Plainfield, New Jersey, to all the struggles he dealt with as a young man, a teenage dad, at a very early age, to now. I'm just proud to say that I was a part of supporting him through that journey, and so many others, man. Like that's really what's special to me about this brotherhood. My A&A family. One of my A&A bros just got a job working for the Golden State Warriors, and he's going to be relocating to California. I had a whole bunch of these guys over here last weekend, celebrating that brother and just the progression. So that's really what these relationships are all about, and it expands, right? Like Dave, the relationship you and I have developed in your time as an amazing, state director, and I'm confident the next director of publicity for this region. The relationships with guys like Ben Alston, who's been a state director in this region, a chapter president in this region, prayerfully will be the next vice regional director. Those are the type of relationships that just mean a lot to me, and that every brother in the fraternity should be looking to try to cultivate. So that's really what the mantra is, and hopefully when brothers see that in us, then they'll want to do that even more in their own personal lives.
Got you. So talking about Brother Reeves, our regional director, being reflective as his term winds down, um, have you been reflective at all? Looking back on your last 4 years as vice regional director to 27, what would you say if you reflected on your term? What would you say would be your most proud of the last 4 years as vice regional director?
Oh man, so much. But I got to tell you, the thing that I really, as I look back over these 4 years, I look at the struggles that we had, and not just as a fraternity, but worldwide. I think about that COVID period. When our board when this administration, the 27 administration, came into office, we literally took our oaths in our living rooms, in our dining rooms, in our home offices. I actually took my oath for vice director right here in this basement, in the basement of my home, with my wife standing by my side. So I think about that. I think about the struggles we had to try to keep it together during the COVID-19 pandemic. And even in the midst of that, if we want to talk specifically around like membership, right, which is the primary responsibility for a vice director, right? You got two jobs as a vice director: membership and support your regional director. That's 1 and 1A, right? So when I think about how the membership grew in this region, even in the midst of a pandemic, we surpassed 3,000 financial members in this region for the first time ever in 2020, even in the midst of a pandemic. And I know for a lot of brothers, because again, I talked to so many, the standards weren't ideal. We were doing, intake processes on virtual platforms like this one, but you know what? It just goes to show what we can accomplish, even in times of great uncertainty and great despair. That the members of this great fraternity of ours kept their wits, that we helped to lead and to guide them, and that we achieved new all-time record highs in membership, even in the midst of a pandemic. So if there's, if you talk about like, looking back over the 4 years, what I'm proudest of, that's definitely one of them, that we managed in some way. And again, look, it wasn't ideal, right? I mean, I know we all got tired of being on Zoom calls and everything else, and it wasn't just for Sigma, right? It was for work, it was for everything, it was for school. But even in the midst of that, the fraternity managed through it, the region managed through it, the chapters, you all managed through it, because again, it wasn't just Nigel, it was all the chapters that made that happen. But our membership grew even in those trying times. That's something I think I'm really most proud of when I look back over these last 4 years. You've gotten used to the change now, right? It's excuse me, it's different now. But yeah, it was. I remember those first few months. It was an adjustment for a lot of people, and it was adjustment for all us as bro. I remember we did the first virtual initiation we did. And it was the International Membership Committee, of which the vice director for each of the regions, first vice or vice director, is a part of, and we did it in partnership with the international headquarters staff. And we were so just, man, it didn't go perfect. I'll just say that. We were muddling through it, trying to figure out how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that, how are we going to manage this, how are we going to get these things done. But you know what I remember the most about that? We had probably 60 new members that we initiated on that first virtual initiation. So, and I mean, all from all over the country, so that was probably the first time ever in the history of the organization that we had something like that happen, where you had, 60 some odd members from every corner of this country. And if memory serves me correctly, we may have even had a couple of new initiates on that from outside of the country, from some of our international chapters. So that was the one positive, was that connectivity, even in the midst of such trying times. But yeah, man, I mean, it was not easy. And now people look at it like it's the norm, but it wasn't easy back then.
Yeah, if you think about it too, I mean, MIP or intake, or you want to go old school and call it pledging, is a unique experience no matter what anyway. And to think about how unique that time period is going to make storytelling 10, 15, 50 years from now is something wild to think about.
Yep, absolutely right. Yeah.
But we've looked back, we've kind of looked at the present, but now let's look forward. And as a presumptive number 28, how do you plan to lead and inspire the Mighty East?
Oh man, great question. So I'm so unbelievably excited about where this region is going and the direction of this region. And what excites me the most is I believe we have an incredible crop of young up and coming leaders in this region. I believe our responsibility as leaders, my responsibility as a presumptive leader of this region, is to inspire, educate, train, and prepare those leaders for the next steps of leadership, not just in the fraternity, but professionally as well. Because let's be clear, the things we do and the things we lead at and the training that we can receive in Sigma can really be like a proving ground that can help brothers in their professional acumen. I know it's done that for me. So I really, truly believe that we can deliver some of the training that we're able to deliver in this fraternity. If you were to go outside of the organization, and a lot of brothers know this, you pay tens of thousands of dollars for some of these certifications and professional training seminars and webinars that folks offer out there. So our primary focus in this new administration is going to be to empower and to develop the next generation of leaders in this region. Obviously, we're going to be focused on growing the region, continuing on the growth path. But I believe that that growth path requires a strategic plan on how we're going to do it. And if brothers have listened to me recently in my reports as a vice director, I've kind of given some hints about where I think there are opportunities in this region to grow, right? And even on an international basis, there's a lot of talk about international growth and international membership right now and chartering chapters internationally and all this stuff. And that's all great. But I believe in every region, in particular in this region, there's an opportunity for holistic growth right here in the region that we all live in places like Virginia, places like Maryland. Maryland, Virginia, two largest states in the region in terms of membership, but there are still large swaths of territory in both of those states where we just don't have the presence that we want to have. So there are growth opportunities there. Same goes for Pennsylvania. Heck, even right here in New Jersey, we have counties in New Jersey. I can tell you right now, Sigma doesn't even touch, and Jersey ain't that big, So, even in Delaware, I mean, there's growth opportunities there. I think Dave, you've done a great job with some of the transition of some of the collegiate chapters with the school, with like schools like Wesley College closing and what you brothers are working to do at a school like Goldie Beacom. So there are huge growth opportunities across this region. My job and my goal as a regional director is to empower our membership, empower our leadership to really tackle those growth opportunities and really help this region to continue to grow. I believe we can we just surpassed 3,000 members in 2020. I believe we can get to 4,000 members here, before 2025. And that's my goal. I want to go into Conclave 25 over 4,000 members. And I'm speaking here today. I'm confident that we can and that we will accomplish that. And let me be clear about one last thing. It's not just about numbers for me, right? But in the numbers, in the growth, there are now, the saying goes, right, many hands make light work. And I believe that if we're really going to accomplish the goals and the true misses of this fraternity that we love, right, and really live on that motto of culture for service and service for humanity and deliver that to these communities, then we need qualified brothers. We need more brothers as part of the Wondrous Band. And I believe that they are out there and can be a huge benefit and a huge support to us. Our collegiate chapters, a collegiate chapter with 3 or 4 or 5 members or fewer, if 2 of those guys graduate, now you got 1 guy on the yard. So we have to grow our collegiate chapters holistically. And there's going to be challenges there because let's be frank, we got some of these schools, they'd rather put a line through our names instead of under it, right? They're writing the rules in a way that they don't want us there. But we have to fight those battles through a strategic ground game, one chapter, one area, one school at a time to help this organization to grow, to help this region to grow. And that's going to be my focus as the 28th Eastern Regional Director.
Got you. So, Brother Vice, Regional Director Coelho, our initial edition, which is the word I was looking for way back when about half an hour ago, of one of these podcasts. I know I touched on the purpose and all that to open things, but just if you could summarize before we get out of here, what your vision is for this going forward for the Brothers in the East.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dave. So, and listen, I appreciate you, man, for the vision. And Dave, I remember I said to you, man, I'm a big fan of your podcast, right? Your Dave's Head podcast. And watching that was one of the inspirations for us to do this. This One East podcast is going to be an ongoing interactive discussion with the membership, right? For the brothers in our region, but not just in our region, for fraternity-wide. We as leaders have to start providing enhanced methods and enhanced platforms of communication to the membership. So what you're going to see on this podcast moving forward is you're not just going to see my lovely face popping up on every episode, but we're going to open this up to our regional board members, right? We're going to be having open and honest discussions, brotherly discussions around hot topics that are taking place, not just in our region, but in our fraternity or even in the communities in which we strive to serve as members of this fraternity. We're going to change the settings sometimes. Sometimes you'll log on or you'll look at an episode and you won't just see a couple of guys sitting, sitting on Zoom. We'll be at, different locations, different sites, sites of meetings, sites of conferences. We're going to really make this interactive and exciting. And we're going to want folks talking about, man, did you see what they just talked about on that One East podcast? That's a hot topic, right? So that's the goal of this platform. We want to make this a go-to where brothers can get information, they can hear the pressing topics of the day be discussed. Heck, if it's possible, we may even sometimes, take emails or take reactions or questions from the membership to make it really interactive. So it's a blank slate that we're going to look to grow. But most importantly, we want you to tune in. Every episode, we want you to come back. We want you to see it. We want you to give us feedback so we can in tune try to make it even better and more interactive. This One East podcast belongs to the membership. It belongs to the brothers. So we want you to help us to make it even better. And I'm confident that with our dynamic director of publicity, we're going to grow it even further. So we're really, really excited.
Yeah, we have like you said, a blank slate, an opportunity to make this anything and everything we want it to be to benefit the Mighty East. So,
Yep.
looking forward to seeing the vision come to fruition and learning the word addition to use that more and more.
There you go. Listen, neither one of us can remember it, right? So yeah, so
Yeah,
you got that, man. You
it was
got
a
that.
struggle. It was a struggle.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
all right, until next time, brothers of the Mighty East, One East and go Mob.
Take care, brothers. Go on.